it's not and it's not begun, nor is there like unto him anymore. Unity uttermost showed, I adore the might of that breath. Supreme and terrible God, who makest the gods and death to tremble before thee. I adore thee.
Because of their past behavior, all of those things are going to be new in this system. And so to try to use...
All right, my question is, it's a good question. How about when me and you, if we do meet up, we go to a Yahoo restaurant, we dine and dash, and when they ask me for the tip, I tell them, sorry, I'm not circumcised.
That's funny, but I think they would get
Yeah.
If they were true Jews, Rabbi, they wouldn't even let you get close to the door.
I do think it's interesting, Illumi, that you saw yourself through the eyes of, like, through the experience of the Jews. You're like, oh, this is what it's like to be in exile, you know?
I mean...
When did you start to see yourself that way?
I've always, whether via Palestinian education, religious understanding, or American education.
Did you learn about the Holocaust in Gaza? Probably not.
Yeah, we are taught about the Holocaust. We're taught about World War II. We're taught about... No, we acknowledge the Holocaust. We just, they don't really mention the numbers. So, there was, they talk about a genocide, so it was a Hamlet Ibada, so the Yahud Europa, and so this is mentioned. And then I think there's an estimate given, like figures talk about and something, but I think the 6 million number became more apparent with like MTV and Seven Heaven Club or all that. We had dish, we had satellite, so I was able to pick up that. And that has been, so I grew up watching MTV, and I'm talking about that MTV, which still had like the Seven Heaven, whatever club, that old guy, Satan himself in the world, the representative of Satan, whatever that guy is, which I don't think he's dead yet. I mean, someone should go check on that guy. Like, why is he still alive? Like, fuck, that guy's a vampire.
Illumi, if you feel the sense of kinship with the Jewish people and their experience and their trajectory, like, why do you still, like, how do you square that with your sort of apocalyptic fantasies?
You're confused. You view Judaism as this people and whatever you kind of pseudo-manufactured. The way I see this is tradition of believers where this people kind of have corrupted a tradition, and it's all about recovering.
I don't want to get into that. I don't really care about the tradition or what Jews are, but you identified your journey in exile as...
Yeah, I'm in exile.
Through this prism of the Jewish experience and their history, right? So how do you square that with your apocalyptic fantasies of rapture and destroying Israel?
You want to hear my synthesis? Like, I've already synthesized.
Yeah, go for it.
So I view us as Israel. So you're not Israel. I'm Israel. So I am Israel. Israel is to struggle in the mission of God that is meant for the Holy Land, that is to usher all of humanity into this kingdom of God era, where the Sharia is prevalent, just like as the current global order is prevalent in that sense. So I believe that is to take place. And prior to that, there are going to be a few signs, and that is one of them is this fifth exile. And I believe we are experiencing the fifth exile as people indigenous to this land, as a Southern Levantine. This is an exile. So I've been exiled. Who's been of my lineage all the way as this far in the world. I'm the first.
Do you think the Jews were exiled by the Romans?
I think there were, historically speaking, there were Jews all around the Mediterranean prior to even Pompey showing up in Judea. So this is refusal to accept the historical academic narrative, is to refuse to acknowledge as a Jew that there were Jewish communities, vibrant Jewish communities, all around the Mediterranean prior to even Pompey. It's also ignorance or refusal to accept the historical academic narrative is that the Hasmoneans are the ones who brought Pompey, and that there was a Jewish civil war, a Hasmonean civil war. Prior to that, there was the Jewish civil war. So, the Jews have been at war with one another, with their own bureaucracy, their governing system, and it's been switched multiple times. And not only that, but they went, and they're the ones who called upon a genocidal maniac like Pompey to come and arbitrate over a civil war that has led to the death of, tens of thousands of believers, technically speaking. So this is a disaster. You could see why God would punish any community of believers over this action. So this is how I see it. I don't see it as, and so Christ came.
How do you square that with your friendship with many Jewish people on this app?
Friends.
I don't know. Are we friends?
I
Do you feel like
I'm friends with him.
are you friends with me,
I
Roman?
guess people take friendship as like such a very light thing. They mean like cordial. Yeah, we're cordial.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I hope when you go in there, when you listen, I hope when
So
you
that's what friends are for. They're in times of
listen.
need and all that.
Lumi.
So that's how I identify as a
All right.
friend.
Well, when you move to Gaza and when you join the warriors, the brave warriors who siege Jerusalem, just
No.
spare my
I'm too
sister and my niece and
I'm
nephew.
too smart for that shit. No. That's
Okay,
over.
we'll just put in a good word for my sister and her
That's over. There's no reason to go back to that era. That era is done for. We're in an era where Gaza is no longer going to be sieged. We're back to early 2000s again. So it's going to be open. And who knows, eventually the Israelis are going to have to let Gazans access Israel proper for work. I mean, if they don't, who gives a
That's
shit?
all you
We'll
want
have...
at Lumi is that they get to go to
We
Israel.
as Gaza, we are more
Is that
than
the glory
happy.
you want to restore? That just your dad, that people like your dad can work in Israel again?
No, what I want is international borders, so it's going to be better than even early 2000. But I want to
I thought you want
showcase.
war. I thought you want apocalypse. I thought you want rapture.
No, you're asking me where we are eschatologically and what I have understood from my religion. I'm looking at the literature
Okay, so you
of the
separate
people of
that
the
from
book.
like the immediate future.
Why do you continue to interrupt me when I'm trying to deliver the understanding? I don't know. It's just like if you hate a Buttercup, I'm sorry, but this cause, out of all the causes in the world, you will never separate the religious angle. And the sooner you acknowledge that, the sooner you can be part of the conversation.
Okay. I will take your word for it. But
It's the facts. I'm sorry, Buttercup. It's the facts. No one goes to that land and suffers all this nonsense and doesn't have a religious bone. Come on, this is just nonsense without a religious theme taking place to make it all make sense.
listen, I'm not claiming there's no religious element. I'm not one of those people that says it's all political.
Okay, so you understand that whether it's Jews, whether it's Muslims, and Christians to their own desire wish these events to be of meaning and ushering in the kingdom of God. This is not the end times. We're talking about the rule of theocracy as a global order under a benevolent monarch.
All right. Anyway, this has been really interesting conversation. Thanks for sharing, being so open with us. I really appreciate it.
What, you gotta go?
I kind of have to go to sleep soon.
Who's
All right,
gonna get the room going?
What do you say?
Could we still keep
Yeah, you want to
it
stick around, Illumi, and hang out and tell people about your...
No, I want you to hang out as well. I mean, it's Saturday.
Why? Because I'm your
why don't
friend,
you-
right, Illumi?
Well, I mean, you're one of the most sensible
honest,
voices
you love
on
me.
Clubhouse. I love
What'd you say?
you, Buttercup.
Thank
I love you. You're
What the
welcome.
hell is this? What the hell
See,
is
he
this?
does have a soul.
Amos' coexistence rooms are
Oh my
working.
God.
There is life in his heart yet.
This is the power of Amos's rooms, the coexistence.
What do you want to talk about, Buttercup? Or anyone else? That's fine. Go on. I said a lot. I mean, Jim Dib is a West Banker. He's also been
Yeah, I was listening to your experience being a student in Gaza, and you went over a few things. Of course, we have had a different, totally different experience in terms of schooling, similar in terms of the teachers, status in the community, in the society. That's in days past. That's no longer the case. And the curriculum, you actually caught up with the being taught the Egyptian curriculum. What is it in terms of schooling? Of course, yours is a very particular and special case in terms of you being an American. But that's for Gaza. But there are many Palestinian Americans who end up growing in Palestine, the West Bank, and Gaza. But the back to the curriculum, I recall the curriculum was the Jordanian curriculum at one point, but we also, most of the curriculum was run by the Israeli civil administration, where history was never taught, the word Palestine was never mentioned. We were never taught any of the stuff about the whole issue of Israel and so on and so forth.
Interesting.
That came later, because the entire curriculum was actually managed or run by the Israeli Department of Education. So the books actually had.
Oh yeah, Illumi says he remembers that when there was Israeli books when he was really young.
Right. Yeah. So.
Jendib, what did you think of Illumi? About this period of Illumi's life is they came after Oslo with this. There was all optimism and hope. Fall apart. You probably had the same experience watching things.
Yeah, those years were those years. I don't know if it was extremely naive, but they were very hopeless in terms of the. People actually believed their forward, at which there was some freedom of movement. Things started to get different, to feel different.
Less dangerous.
Yeah, for a short period of time, things, people were very, very optimistic. You started to see, Palestinians who lived outside of Palestine start to come back and invest money and, setting up companies and building. And so there was an extreme sense of optimism that did not last for too long. But there was that feeling of being hopeful. People traveled. We used the Ben Gurion airport more often. People taking over Gaza, and things started to go kind of south from then on.
Like 5 or 6 years. I think around 2000 or so is when it started. It was clear that it is over.
Yeah.
Clear that it is over.
Yeah.
When Ariel Sharon came in.
The peace, the process. They made peace. And like he said, when Sharon came by, and he had, they always wanted a plan to torpedo the whole so-called process. And Hamas also had the same agenda, at which time, every time there was a certain movement in a certain direction, Hamas went and deployed their suicide bombers into Israeli communities. And that kind of started to bring back the right-wing Israeli elements into the government. Netanyahu did the same thing with Yitzhak Rabin, at which I sometimes view him as single-handedly responsible for Rabin's assassination.
Yeah.
And we started to feel how the Israeli society, how the Israelis on the right side of issues
we started seeing, you know, Rabin's picture in caricature being dressed as a Hitler.
Even Rabin's wife thinks that Netanyahu. Wait, Shinda, just to be fair though, like, how much do you attribute? Do you see these spoilers on both sides fueling each other, or do you see them equally culpable, or one side more or less culpable?
No.
Spoilers on both sides.
The Hamas people felt they were being squeezed out of the whole Islamist thing. They were being squeezed out of the whole so-called process. So they resorted. First of all, they actually ran for elections. You know, they ran for elections and they put up their lists of candidates and they won. And that was not very surprising. I personally didn't like it, but they won the elections. And of course, the Americans, the Israelis thought, and of course the PLO people thought, we can't live with this shit. So they torpedoed that whole thing, and the elections were pretty okay. They were pretty fair and square. And I thought, they had enough wisdom to let those guys, figure it out, but that, of course, didn't happen. The Haniya of Hamas actually formed a government for like, I don't know, a couple of months. And then the Americans also started to really, really interfere with Arafat and his.
They didn't deal with the Hamas-led government at all. America and Israel boycotted.
Yeah, I know. They eventually ended up, arresting most of the members of the legislative council, and they dissolved the council and so on. But also, they also started to prop up this character Abbas that we have now. And these guys kept imposing him on Arafat, and I mean that's history.
And on the other side, shit was happening too, right? They killed Rabin, and there was all this incitement against Rabin, and the far right was rising. So this was happening simultaneously, where like there was people who were refused to allow, who were spoiling on both sides, and each time something would happen, it would fuel the other extremist movement.
Well, sometimes I felt like maybe those Islamists knew something that we don't know in terms of Israel's intentions, in long term. So they were right about the Israel's intention in terms of were they actually in the process of granting Palestinians like a real state, real independence, real freedom?
Do you think Rabin was sincere?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Maybe he was on a personal level, but I don't think that. I remember Shamir used to say, "We will negotiate, but we will negotiate for the next 30 years, 40 years. Who cares? We'll just negotiate."
They'll just kick the can, and that's what they've been doing ever since.
Yeah. Maybe Rabin was somewhat sincere because he ended up
they fucking murdered him,
Yeah, he ended up understanding that the long-term survival of the state. He had a different approach, and I guess also he had massive political support from Americans and even the Jordanians and people in the region. He probably did understand that eventually they would have things have to change somehow. But then they ended up, putting up that terrorists and killing them. But this current prime minister Netanyahu was out in the open saying, "I'm going to torpedo the state-to-state solution. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this," and he actually did. And
weren't there like during Oslo there was cooperation, Palestinians and Jews talking to each other, even among the Israeli public.
For down the line.
Even just the rank and file, the population seemed to want to cooperate with each other.
And Palestinians wanted to engage in business dealings, in making money, in building stuff, and that kind of created an environment, an economic environment amongst the Palestinians, with the Israelis, because the Israelis have the technology, and even Israeli companies started setting up shops in the West Bank to cultivate, the cheap pool of labor and so on in the West. It was those investments, and people were pretty much hopeful, thinking that things will eventually work out. But apparently, the Israelis have a whole different idea or understanding what the so-called peace process is. And then we started also looking into the details of this whole process itself. Reading accords in terms of the Israelis recognize major issues like resources, water, energy, that kind of stuff, and everything seemed to be like so mysterious. It's not there. It just doesn't exist. So
they were, though, before Oslo, and I think this is one of the drivers for Oslo, was that Palestinians were on the ground building relationships with Israeli citizens on the ground.
There was a big, huge Israeli left movement, the peace.
But I'm not even talking about peace or anything like this. I'm saying like in business and just relationships.
Well, the idea of business is because the both economies or the economy. Yeah, I mean the economy of the Palestinians is totally intertwined with the Israeli.
Right, and it was melding into one economy, and they were seeing signs. This is what my opinion is. They were seeing signs that the people on the ground, the societies themselves, were all beginning to meld together, and you couldn't have then you would have a situation.
I don't know about melding together, but people in the peace camp in Israel, they were large in numbers. They were.
No, exactly. There wasn't. You're talking about like politically left. I'm talking about just on the ground where Israel at the time, if you remember, before Oslo, was in charge of everything. Remember, you said the curriculum, the police station,
right.
They were responsible for everything. So all this, even the soldiers that were in the West Bank, they were eating, having their lunches in the West Bank restaurants, and people were getting on the ground. The occupation was fading away, was dissipating, and then the danger was now it would come to a point where the society would be like, one country. We're already one country on the ground as it is, so it might as well be one country. And that's the danger.
Like a pre-Oslo, there was an occupation. There were less settlements, but the occupation was also responsible for the occupied.
That's right, exactly.
In terms of services, economy, and so on and so forth.
There were Israelis at one point that truly believed in peace. Maybe the government was never sincere, or they were never willing to give up control, or they had some sort of like larger Zionist.
Yes, the Israelis.
People desperately believed in this. I knew these people. They believed in it. There was a time when
Yes, there was. And I think they were very marginalized because of both the intransigence of both the Islamist Hamas and the Israeli right.
Yeah.
Because kind of Hamas made sure that this so-called peace process does not go forward. I asked myself, is it because they knew what this process is about, or they also felt that they're going to be very marginalized. They're just going to be irrelevant down the line. So to keep themselves, playing a role in within the Palestinian society, they started to engage in those actions. And of course, the Americans and the people in the PLO never wanted them to be part of the Palestinian society, or the politics not to be part of the Palestinian society. So we started to see this, and they actually planted the seed of division with this.
You ever watch the gatekeepers, like of the former Shin Bet, to talk about like how, I don't know, it's like a documentary of like ex-Shin Bet and military leaders who kind of watched Israel create the resistance through like not knowing when to stop,
Yeah, I thought it was.
And you see Ami Ayalon and all these former prime ministers who now talk very like idealistically about two states and how there is hope for the future and peace and condemning the occupation and how it's not sustainable. But it's always after the fact, Like years later, they're retired and they talk in ways that seem like they did at one point want a peace process. And it's when they're ruling, when they're governing, they say we have to be pragmatic, we have to keep people safe. And then after the fact, they become like the most virulent, loudest voices against the occupation, against the genocide, against the brutality in Gaza, right?
Right, but because they are politicians, they want to stay in the seat of power, and they play to their domestic people, I guess.
So maybe they didn't have breathing room also, because every time they tried, then something would happen from the Palestinian side, and then how could they explain to the people how they're giving back land or being lax, being weak? It's like a tough when you're a politician, you're put in this position where you have to juggle what the mandate is from the people with like your higher ideals. It's an impossible. I don't know.
Yeah, and back to Ilumi, I guess, back to the Gaza Strip. I mean, the Gaza, that's where the PLO started, sitting root, and that's where Arafat came in, right? And I remember how much money was pouring into the Gaza Strip. I've had friends who invested millions of dollars buying property in Gaza, trying to develop and build build hotels and build projects and so on and so forth. And that all of a sudden, came to a halt, and they lost their investments and they lost their money. And then we started watching the corruption of those characters who came in through after the Oslo Accords. They came from Tunisia and they came from Lebanon and from other parts of the Middle East, and they felt like some people who were from like some other planet. They were corrupt, they were hungry, they were just not up to par with the way we lived as Palestinians, because we lived under a brutal occupation. We were not, looking for to get rich or be corrupt. We just, kept our head down. We just, farmed the land, kept the land, and things were just stale, or they stayed the same for years or end. And all of a sudden, those characters will come in, and the PLO started to set up, their security apparatus. And I actually remember talking to a kid who was just enrolling in the security apparatus of the PLO, and I was talking about Arafat. And I remember him saying, like, you have to say, his honor, whatever, the president of Palestine. I said, like, who the fuck are you? Like, why am I talking about Arafat? Just another character to me. So they were setting up this new system of government that is very similar to those, other Arab governments. And there was a character the Americans sent into the West Bank, Dayton. His name was Dayton, General Dayton, who was a CIA operative, and he was setting up this entire government system, and the whole system was concentrating on how pretty much they were training people how to fight terrorism, how to do this stuff. But eventually it became clear he's setting up just like any another power. You can't say anything about the leader of this government. I literally was talking to the kid, and the kid like, why are you talking about Arafat like this? You have to say his honor yourself. Who the fuck is Arafat? He's just another Palestinian, because we don't have this amongst ourselves as Palestinians. We did not experience living under a dictatorial Arab regime. Like, I know how it feels to go live in another Arab country at which you cannot discuss the king or the emir or whatever, the queen. You can't talk about them in public, because if you do, I know you're gonna end up, being hauled to jail. We didn't have those feelings, so all of a sudden we started to feel like there's a new government, a new dictatorial Arab government that is being, brought in, and they are training them in all those dictatorial methods.
They like elevated him above the people.
Say it again?
He was like elevated above the people, like he.
Right, well, not him particularly, but we started to feel that this system that they're bringing in is just a very typical Arab government system, just like another dictatorial system that they are, implementing. And they were training, they were spending the money. They were also, putting up roads and doing infrastructure, new roads started to come up, all with this USAID money. And things started, the geography of the place, or the topography of the place, started to look different. People started to be, able to go to their lands, and new roads were being, laid down. But by the same token, we started to also feel how corrupt those motherfuckers are. Those bastards are. And I used to sit down with people, and I see like they are engaged in some massive, immoral shit when it comes to money, and the way they saw, an opportunity for themselves to enrich themselves and, pat their pockets, doing some crazy stuff. Like I used to, I would sit with the district attorney of a town, and at night he would be operating like a nightclub. That's the kind of shit that we had. And I'm like, who the fuck are you? Like, how did you get to be, an influential person? You're a young guy. Oh, because my family knew so and so, or my family is related to so and so. So I was appointed to this position based on my, my father's connection with Arafat, or with my compiler's connection with somebody else. And this is the guy who was supposed to be, carrying out the laws of the land. And at night he would go operate some nightclub that, had, nefarious shit. So our society started to get an infusion of something that is different, that we're not used to. Hence, sometimes the Islamists would look at this and say, what the fuck is this? Like, why do we have this corruption? Why do we have this stuff? Although the Palestinian society is a somewhat conservative society, but it's a liberal society in many ways. We do not, like in general, do not subscribe to, religious ideologues in general. But that's another story. That's another topic, probably. Anyway.
Yeah, it's funny whenever the Zionists portray Palestinian society as some sort of Sharia, like, fanatical Islamist society. It's like, so, like, even my friends who grew up Muslim in the West Bank don't have that sort of radicalism that they just, like, I don't even know what they're talking about. I think just, is it lack of exposure? Like, just because there's a green line and they've never interacted with each other? Like, I don't understand.
I mean, don't get me wrong, there are very limited atheist guy who's going to hell someday, or, this commie person, or
they're not like doing lashes as part of the government infrastructure, right?
Made fun of or ridiculed, or they're not exactly those very radical elements within, and then they exist in any society in general. You would make fun of them or you would laugh at them, but they were not to a degree where like they're violent or they wanted to impose their ultimate whatever laws or whatever zealous laws on your life. It never worked for them.
Even in Gaza, do they force everyone to wear hijab? Not really.
No, the Palestinian society is not. First of all, it's not a society that that can be easily intimidated into submission. Yeah, it's very hard for any force to intimidate Palestinians into ultimate submission. It just doesn't work with us. Because because of the proximity of us to the Israelis. The Israelis do have an open society, right?
Yeah.
And I always look at my own society and say, if you want to learn the principles of democracy and airing out your differences, look at the Israelis. They can talk and they say all kinds of shit. I mean, they're fucked up in the head, but they have they have a certain degree of Western kind of style. A way of life in terms of democracy and so on and so forth, but you cannot subdue people Palestinians into submission, because we have endured all this shit for years on end, and we are resilient enough that we have not been eliminated by a very mighty force called the State of Israel. Mm-hmm. They haven't been able to actually get rid of all of us, not yet. I mean, they haven't succeeded. They tried, but they haven't succeeded.
So interesting. Illumi sees all these parallels between his experience being exiled over and over again and the Jewish experience. And I see in the Palestinian, there's so many parallels between, the survival of the Palestinians and the exile and the Jewish experience. And yet people on the ground can't see it, Like, if anything, this should be a point of connection.
Yeah, but I'm backing it up because there are events that are taking place that I believe resonate with the eschatology. So when I tell you
eschatology aside, though, people should understand.
There's a concept called fifth exile. Why doesn't that apply to believers? The Jews are not believers. The Zionists are not believers.
Spoilers, no offense, Illumi. The eschatologists are the people who are spoiling.
They don't believe. They don't imagine. You know why we have a problem with the Jews? And I'll tell you the honest thing, is that if we were in the position of the Jews in the world, we would enforce the Torah more than they would. That's the problem. The problem is the Jew is in a position to bring the Torah and the Sharia to the world and literally works against it. Not only that, spreads hedonism, spreads abomination. That's what he spreads. And this is where hypocrisy, a hypocrite is worse than a disbeliever. You can say the Christian is a disbeliever, an idolater, in the God of Abraham, but you're a hypocrite. And this is what Jesus came and told you. You're a fucking hypocrite. And this is why y'all tried to kill him. That's why. Y'all don't like hearing it, but and the Jews know it's worse than a disbeliever is a hypocrite. And just like the Muslims, they know it.
Can I ask this thing? How much more prophecies will it take this?
Like Allah has sealed their hearts and their sights and their ears. If anyone understood the circumstances, you would be shivering right now. This is all happening. This is stuff that's been prophesied. This is prophecy coming true.
It's happening, and it's happening in
you
real
spread.
time.
The God of Abraham is so close to us, and you're spreading this in His sight. Are you insane? This is how we look at them. They're insane people. It was better for them to kill themselves, but they don't know yet.
Like, how could they be atheists at the same time? Like, no offense, but you have prophecies happening the day before, literally right now, and then next week there's going to be another prophecy being fulfilled, and people still carry on being atheists.
Alright, dude, I don't really care about the prophecies. I know you guys believe in it and think everything's prophetic and whatever, but I think we need to talk pragmatics,
Like,
People live there, and they want to keep living there, and they want their kids to stop fighting, going to war year after year after year.
But when we do the cold, shrewd mathematics for you, you don't like it, Buttercup.
Okay.
At the end of the day, it's demographics.
Yeah, but I'm a heathen. I'm a heretic. I don't believe in the shit. So
No. Demographics has nothing to do with the religious angle. Demographics at the end of the day. Israel is a Jewish state. To maintain yourself as a Jewish state,
okay, I
you
disagree
need a
with
Jewish
that.
demographic.
Me and Jindab disagree that that's a necessity, okay?
Oh, well, how did Jindab disagree?
He doesn't think that, Jindab and I don't think that you need a 51% majority in Israel for the place to be sustainable and for Jews to continue to live there and thrive, okay?
That's not, we don't establish the
calculus. We think it can be a one state where everyone has equal rights and Jews.
So why would that be called a Jewish state?
What?
Why would that be called a Jewish state?
It doesn't have to be called anything.
Okay, well, the Zionist wants a Jewish state. So you're against the Zionist project.
Binational means both.
my thing
It
is,
can be two things in character. It already is two things in character.
So let me get this straight.
You
think-
already are two people.
I understand you,
on the same
Buttercup. I
land.
understand. You want a binational state, which is never going to happen. But you
Well, if you're on your way,
think.
that's true.
I'm sorry, Buttercup. I'll explain to you why it's never going to happen. Because you're assuming. You're assuming the colonial experience of the British with the native. That's what you're assuming. This is not going to be the same experience.
So it's not. I agree with you. But don't you think eventually, if this state, the so-called state, the Israeli state, if this state is no longer run as a state, okay? Don't you think the people of the region can?
What does that mean if this state is no longer run as a state?
It means like this so-called Israeli Jewish state doesn't exist anymore, okay? And there are people living on the land, right?
So you're talking about the collapse of the state of Israel.
Yes.
That's what we want. That's what we want.
Okay, but I think the bigger question.
Why are we disagreeing?
Okay, but the bigger question is: are those people who are living in this region, who are the Jewish people, of course, are they going to be in the
The
ultimate?
Amalekites are.
I don't get this Malachite stuff. Doesn't religious. I'm just asking. There are people who are.
You don't want to believe. I keep telling you, history repeats itself.
Fine. Repeat it.
Jindid, till this day, they don't know who the sea people are. Well, in 1,000 years from today, they're going to be wondering who the hell were the Zionists. Allah, history repeats itself.
Okay, but ultimately, practically.
In the meantime.
I'm just saying.
But ultimately, if the
How do you know our ancestors
if
were
the
more
pillars of the
technologically
state,
advanced than us?
if the pillars of the state itself is no longer around,
Look at the
the
pyramid.
idea of Zionism is gone. There are people who are living on the ground, who are present in the region, right? You don't think eventually they can be easily absorbed within the region as just like anybody else?
We were talking about Arabization. I've been telling you about
It's not, it doesn't have to be
Arabization.
Arabization. You can be, I don't know, religion can be X or Y.
You don't have to. You don't have to say, "Oh, we want to Arabize you," but you understand the inevitable over time, over let's say a century.
They already eat your food.
Okay, you're just proving my point. They fear that. They hate that. Don't you see? They want to remove the Arabic from the
No,
streets.
they don't hate it. They love fucking falafel and shawarma.
They love the food, but they don't want to call it Arabic food, or they don't want to call it Palestinian food. They don't want to call it za'atar. They want to call it spice time.
No, they're like the word za'atar, I promise.
Okay.
can I ask a good question?
Focus on the point.
there's a deep
I don't see what Jindab is saying that we're going to disagree over. He's talking about an inevitable reality where the Jewish state collapses under its own demographics, which would lead to a binational state. That's what you're talking about. Now, over time, I'm not saying we're going to throw all these Yahud in the sea. There are a lot of religious Jews who have not participated in the actions of the IDF. So these people are not going to be treated. These people are not going to be treated as the same people who feed into the IDF's manpower or auxiliary, or whatever you want to call it.
Whatever you implement, whatever rules you implement.
The religious Jews, we try them with religious law. The religious Jews will be tried under the Torah. The secular Jews who fed into the IDF will be tried under our law.
So chaos.
Every society without God collapses eventually.
No, we're not better than Muhammad. We're gonna try you. The trial will be like the trial of Muhammad.
I don't know about Jinda, but I was imagining a much more.
So you should hope, you should beg for international law, because the collapse of this current global order and international law will bring forth something that will not be favorable to you.
If God doesn't...
And you think that's going to be a Muhammad law after the collapse of this current
Allah, we're gonna sebi. They're all gonna get sebied anyways.
Who will unite these societies if it's not God?
Let's be honest. We're gonna pharaoh them. We're gonna pharaoh you. So just letting you know.
Well, I guess I'll go with the crew with the rest of them, huh?
With who? You're with us, man.
Admit it, just say
You're one of the Hyksos, yeah, man. Stop coping.
You are talking about Sebi, you are talking about all this nonsense.
Umma Sabuna, do you not see what they've done to us? They have
who said
the Yahud. Jindib, do we not pay taxes to the state of Israel?
We certainly do.
Okay, so someone is profiting off me without giving me my inalienable rights. So this person is literally enslaving me.
Look, I'm not saying they won't.
Jindib, would you disagree with the description that we as Palestinian population in the territories are enslaved?
We are pretty much enslaved. But what I'm saying
Yes,
is,
we're enslaved. They jump us with M16s now every day in the West Bank where Jindib is at, and they literally are unaliving every single day almost.
Okay, but I am not saying. Can you hold on a second? I'm not saying.
And not only that, they're beating almost the life out of American passport holders.
Okay, I want to hear from Dean. Dean hasn't spoken yet.
Okay, just hope they will not cut me. Thank you, Buttercup. And so I heard like for an hour and a half. I've been hearing everything. So it's clear to me what Illumi believes in. He's a typical ISIS supporter. The mentality, maybe not this organization, but the idea, the caliphate, the Islamic rule, everything. He even used the word Sabi. So this is pretty clear. And this is what he said actually. For the Yahud, he said there is Sabi. So Jindab was against this idea. That was, as I understood from him, he wanted coexistence with all the Jews. Like, of course, I don't believe in this scenario because Israel is here to stay, and Israel
It'll only stay if it's amidst the God.
Keep going, Dean. Ignore him.
Yeah, okay. It's funny how they say Israel is only supposed to stay when it admits to God, but at the same time, they cry me baby that Israel is trying to build the third temple, which is the fulfillment of basically a religious Jewish state.
No, you're forcing God's hand when you're doing that.
Okay, Rabbi, stop. Let's let Dean speak, please. Rabbi trolls a lot.
No, it's not trolling this time.
That's fair.
I heard the others. Let me finish. So,
You're going.
yeah, thank you. So basically, what happened? The Palestinians. I heard a lot of victimhood right here, and maybe yes, people suffer in so many places. I've been part of the Peace Factory, if you know it. Ronnie Ezri-Pushpin and a lot of peace-loving people. I met a lot of Palestinians.
What is that? I don't know what that is. What's the Peace Factory?
Peace Factory is Israeli organization that was working on peace with Palestinians and having a two states or even a single state. The idea is a Jew and a Palestinian is equal. That's the main idea. You can search Ronnie as a Pushman.
How did you get involved if you're from Iraq?
Oh, it was online.
Oh.
Yeah, it was online, and I wasn't even in Iraq back then when it happened. And I managed to meet a lot of Palestinians at that time, and many of them were great. But I started to leave at 2014 when ISIS invaded Iraq, when I started to see a lot of my so-called Palestinian friends were celebrating what happened. So it wasn't just the videos I'm seeing in the West Bank and Gaza as Iraqis were being killed, as the Yazidis were being enslaved, as the Christian houses were being marked, and all of that was happening. The Palestinians were celebrating, my friends were celebrating, and I was like, how can you be for peace and you are celebrating? Why would you celebrate killing Christians, Shiites, and Yazidis who have nothing with you, who don't even have a border with you? Like,
can you be specific about how they were celebrating, or were they just excited that someone got the West, you know? That, like, someone...
It has nothing to do with the West. The Americans left Iraq in 2012. It was completely Iraqi government elected by the Iraqis, so there was nothing Western about it. But
That is not true. Maliki is not. He was considered a dictator by the time ISIS came about. Just don't lie, bro. Don't lie.
Don't you fucking lie.
Hey, man, watch your language. Watch your language. Why you getting triggered when I just mentioned facts? Why you got triggered when I mentioned a fact?
Okay, so let me explain. I wanted to explain what exactly they're
He
celebrating.
knows that was a Shia oppressive government under Maliki, and people in the Middle East celebrated his toppling. And that's all it is. And Maliki was toppled.
Okay, so I want to hear what his Palestinians...
And of course, Palestinians are going to celebrate the toppling of a Shia extremist government because upon the invasion of Iraq, the Palestinian community in Iraq was pogromed and literally killed, raped, maimed, and sent as refugees, literally stuck on the border between Syria and Iraq. After that, the Syrian revolution, the Palestinians till very recently were still stuck in no man's land on the border. So that's the demise.
Okay.
That's the demise that the Palestinians suffered in Iraq. And anybody can Google this. Anybody can Google this.
Thank you for the context. Dean, I want you to tell us, your friends, I assume they're pretty moderate if they're trying to make peace. Why were they celebrating?
I didn't understand it, but yeah, he actually said it. It was the Shiites failing, it was the Sunnis rising. That was the idea. They didn't care that it was an extreme Sunni radical group. That basically my friends, like, they would go with their families to the beach, wearing bikinis, all of that. And at the same time, that's something that baffled me with the Muslims. Like, they would be extremely secular, but when the Islamists take over somewhere, they would like start supporting and everything and start talking about the glory of Allah, blah, blah,
So
blah.
what do you make of it? What do you make of it?
Bullshit. And you see your understanding of things to be extremely shallow, by the way. Very shallow.
This is my experience with them.
Whatever your experience is, you're articulating in a very shallow way, and your understanding of it seems to be very shallow. You just give it up, Shia, Sunni, Christian, Palestinians celebrated death of Christians and Shia. Bullshit. That's correct.
There's a thing, the Yahud will say anything but the truth.
Well, I'm actually not just Yahudi, just so you know. So, shut up and let me finish.
Not just Yahudi, not just. You're telling me I'm a Yahudi. So get out of here, bro. He's probably a mullah as well.
Yes, this guy sounds like he's full of it. You're so full of it.
Yeah, it's just like I want to be part of this. There's no shackles there.
Let him speak. Guys, enough. Let him speak. He had an experience, and it sounds like, Illumi, you actually agreed with him about the perspective of Palestinians and where
I did it not in the way that he described it, but yes, there was, again, I'm telling you, this is like prior to even ISIS actually knowing what it is. There is a Sunni revolution that took place in Iraq, and a lot of the West tries to hide this under ISIS and extremism or Islamic extremism because it wants to showcase, because they want to hide the failure of the American campaign in Iraq. That's what it is. They want to hide the failure.
I want to get to horse. perspectives on this. Dean, this is his personal experience. You shared your personal experience.
I didn't share it. They're not letting me share anything. He's cutting me. He literally said.
Well, we let you go, bro. You spoke, and then Jin did responded, and then I responded. Why are you complaining?
He told half the story. Let's finish the story. He was shocked by his Palestinian friends' reactions. Go on.
Yeah, so that was one thing. And when I told one of my friends was actually a bit, he didn't like support or not support, and a lot of people were like in his supporting it, and they were telling him why. So my but you're seeing this is terror and everything, and he was like, yeah, I know, but what can we do? This is a mentality we have here, and we have a lot of it. So even he has to be neutral. Like he wasn't supporting ISIS at that point. But most of his friends, his cousins that were living in Jordan and the West Bank were supporting it, and they were tagging him, and he was basically silent in the celebrations and everything. He wouldn't like support it or anything, but I witnessed this basically after that was part of the Peace Factory, because without the Peace Factory, I wouldn't have this exposure with them. Because I had limited exposure as a kid with Palestinians, and basically they were diaspora and not really involved in politics. They were in the Gulf, so the Gulf region, they don't really go deep into politics. As Jim could also explain it, like as he said, they have dictatorships, so they avoid talking over there. But others, maybe in the West, it's a different story. Anyways, so
you mean to tell us Palestinians support the idea of ISIS? So
there are a lot of Palestinians and not Palestinians. Israeli Arabs, Muslims also.
If you ask Palestinians, do you support ISIS? The majority are going to tell you no.
I've never met a Palestinian that supports ISIS. It sounds crazy to me.
But if he means at the beginning days of what was the revolution in Iraq and the state of toppling, if it's talking you again, the toppling of Maliki's got you keep speaking over me. You complaining. You every time I bring up this point, he gets triggered. At the end of the day, anybody can look this up. You can AI this right now. You can go Maliki's government prior to the rise of ISIS, and you're gonna get that there was a Shia extremist government and there was a sectarian tension, and ISIS is pretty much a Western formation or attempting to bottle in this revolution by demonizing it, by giving it structure. That's what they attempted. But at the end of the day, the revolution in Iraq pretty much failed because they are about to reinstall in Maliki again. They're about to reinstall.
I would have supported the idea of Maliki.
Meanwhile, the revolution in Syria succeeds. Subhanallah. How this happened, no one really knows.
Okay, listen, there were strange bedfellows when all this was going down, right? Like all these. Okay, Jinder, you want to say something?
At the end of the day, you can cry about ISIS all you want, but here we have Ahmed al-Shari ruling over Syria, who was affiliated.
If you don't care about other people's,
and he's shaking hands with Trump and top world leaders and Putin and all of that. So, the scare tactic of ISIS and all that disappeared out the window when Ahmed al-Shari took over Syria. That disappeared.
You like ISIS?
No, I refuse to continue to be demonized by the term ISIS or by what ISIS is or Islamic extremism or the notion of such thing as Islamic extremism. The pursuit of Islamic unity and Muslim unity and the return of the State 100 is nothing to scoff over and nothing fanatical and nothing crazy. We're not trying to bring back a national project from 2,000 years ago. We're literally trying to bring back a national project from literally the 1900s. Shut the fuck up. Stop panicking. Sound like a homosexual. I doubt you know, and then you claim you're a Jew. You don't even believe in God.
See, Buttercup, when you try to show any truth, they
okay, but you didn't talk and you called him ISIS, okay? You called him ISIS, and now he's reacting.
He supports the idea of caliphate because this is what he said. This is what he said.
Muslims do. Clown. All Muslims do. 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 That's like saying Jews don't believe in the kingdom of God. Like saying Jews don't believe in the coming of the Messiah and the kingdom of God. Like everyone does. Everyone believes this. You're such a clown.
You don't need to identify what he is. We all know.
He's a clown. I know.
Yeah, like you.
We all know what it is.
I'm a Jew. I'm part Jew. But look at that. You're a dirty Iraqi. You're a dirty brown Iraqi from the desert. Fucking sand comes out of your ass.
Sorry. You can come back up when you learn to behave and not insult people's race and identities. Go ahead, Dean.
Gosh. This is like exhausting. I don't know how you can handle
But literally, don't attack him. We all know what his views are. They're very extreme. He believes in eschatology and fucking end times prophecies. Who cares? Move on. Next.
Yeah, sorry, I kind of forget why I was like.
You were telling me about your Palestinian friends who you were surprised by their political shift.
Oh yeah, that.
And you made the jump that they support ISIS. Do you think
Yeah,
it's
and
today
that
that
was
was
the
Palestinians support
main
ISIS?
page. A group was. I basically screenshot everything at the time. There was a main Gaza page. It was day and night talking about Iraq, what's happening in Iraq, and basically glorifying what ISIS were doing. Even when they started to kick out the Christians and the jizya, all of that happened, and then the massacre against the Yazidis, the genocide that happened actually a few days ago. It was the memory. There were actually two genocides, one on 14th of August, and the main one, the invasion, was on the 3rd of August. And yesterday there was another one, basically multiple explosions that targeted Sinjar, the stronghold of the Yazidis, in 2007. I think in 2007, it was in 2007. And even then, a lot of Palestinians in camps celebrated because at that time they said it was a revenge for a Muslim girl that was killed by Yazidis. So there was this propaganda that was spread at that time that there was actually something bad happened, and the whole Yazidi community condemned it. There was a girl that basically ran away with a Muslim.
Excuse me, but does Pepe ever stop taking Adderall and ever stop talking on this app all night long, all day long? Is anybody else out to have Pepe fatigue? I've got Pepe fatigue.
Okay, so continue.
You know how he says he's got black fatigue? Well, I got Pepe fatigue.
Yeah, I mean, I can picture them saying a lot of this stuff. And at the end of the day, if you look at what some of these BSA activists have said on,
Well, I'm sorry.
conferences, they really said.
Dean, so you had an experience with your Palestinian friends on the line. These are susceptible to conspiracies and rumor, right? Like these type of.
And they always like start shouting Allahu Akbar, glorifying their success. Whenever
Well,
something
Allah Akbar is just God is
because
great.
that's
Is
what-
something wrong with God being great?
Yeah, but like when you are killing others.
So you're saying Palestinians do that? We're talking about Palestinians, not ISIS.
Yes, I'm talking about Palestinian. And actually, there was. I will go back to what Ilumi said about the Palestinians being kicked out of Iraq. It's actually, I went to the camps that were in Syria and Jordan. At the time, I was sympathetic with them. But I started to hear also the stories from Iraqis, what happened. Those Palestinians were actually part of Saddam's elite units. They were actually part of the massacre Saddam was committing against the Shiites and Kurdish populations in Iraq. So basically, they were the secret police, the Gestapo.
Oh, shut the fuck
Saddam
up.
had.
Oh, shut the fuck
And you
up.
shut the
Just
fuck up.
You shut the
Everybody
fuck
knows
up.
it.
You sound like a fucking. He called you a clown, like you're real fucking a full clown too. You're not just a clown. You're a fucking dash clown.
Okay, so listen, the gym dip is Palestinian, let him
Oh,
respond, okay?
shut the fuck up. Come on. Just stop
Jim,
fucking
but
lying.
now just respond to his claims, because listen,
There's nothing
Jewish
to
people
respond
also-
to. This guy is a fucking clown. He's just a fucking clown. There's nothing to respond to. There's nothing to
Listen.
discuss with this guy. Okay? It's as simple
Okay,
as
so
that.
now
He's a simple-minded fool. That's what he is.
you're smearing a whole population revolution because of a few.
No, this
Palestinians.
particular character is a very simple-minded fool. Okay.
All right, fine. That's fine. Benny, you want to come up? Anyway, Dean, you want to talk about your evolution and how you
these refugee camps had women and children. You think these Palestinian women and children were like the Gestapo of the Saddam regime?
They were their families. Their families.
Yeah, exactly. So you punish the families, even if it were true. By the way, not even true that all of these Palestinians were the Gestapo of the Saddam regime. That's fucking bullshit. It's the same bullshit that they use when they said that Hamas was the Morsi. Hold on. They said that Hamas was the Gestapo of the Morsi regime when they wanted to overthrow Morsi. And people bought that shit. Really, 100 million Muslims and you couldn't find anyone to protect you except for these guys in Palestine? Same thing. Iraq, 40, 60 million people, and you couldn't find anyone to protect you except the Palestinians? No, man, what you're saying is absolute fucking bullshit. It's not true. And not only is it pretty rare, but not only, hold on, let me finish. Not only is it pretty rare to find Palestinians like Rumi that have this kind of ideology, more importantly, with regards to ISIS, not only did Palestinians not support ISIS, right, on maps. In addition to that, I find it very, very hard to believe that Palestinians that you were involved with in a peace initiative that wanted to coexist with Israelis supported ISIS. That I find almost impossible.
Yeah, this guy's full of shit. He's stuck up the whole fucking universe. You're so full of shit, dude. You're a clown.
Well, yeah, if I want to make a story.
No, you are a fool. You're a lying fool. You're a liar. And you're not a good liar either. Tell the truth. You have your lying skills are lacking, dude.
Yeah, because I'm not Palestinian. I can't lie.
No, it's just a liar. It doesn't matter what you are. You're just a plain old fool. You're just a fool. You're like a clown. Like a fool. You're just a fool. You sound like a fool.
Generalizations about Palestinians.
Like, he wasn't even saying Israelis. He was saying Jews the whole time.
Who? Illumi?
The Islamists. Yeah.
Well, Illumi we know is an Islamist. Yes, he has extreme views.
So yeah, I even didn't.
We don't just say he's an Islamist. It doesn't mean.
I was basically.
Again, you're confused. So his claim, he came in. I'm just bashing him. I know everything he's doing is a hocus pocus, but the claim that a Muslim believing in the caliphate is an extremist view, well, I mean that's just the religion. The Muslims believe in the return of the caliphate. Literally, this has been prophesied. If you're a Sunni or a Shia, you believe this. So if this is considered an extreme view, and he persists on calling this extremism, then he's just saying Muslims are extremist, or the Muslim ideology is extremist, and hence he is Islamophobic, and hence he needs to be treated accordingly.
This fucking retard's a weird loser.
I'll just kick you in the ass, and you'll run away like a dog that you are.
Damn.
أنا بمشيك زي الكلب, and you know it. I would take off my belt and I would put it around your neck and I would make you walk.
Actually, look what you did.
No, that could have gone much worse. I'm actually like.
Yeah.
I could continue with this.
I definitely control myself.
I understand. No worries.
I hear them and I speak. Then later they.
Can you just explain to me how you're part Jew? Can you just explain to me how you're part Jewish?
Yeah,
I just would like an explanation.
Yeah,
he said he's part Jewish.
Fine. You guys want him to tell your story? You cannot interrupt.
We're not going to interrupt if he focuses on how he's part Jewish.
All right, Dean. You identify with your Jewish roots and you sympathize with Israel. How did you come to this conclusion? Give us the end, the rest of the story.
Sorry, which conclusion? I didn't get it.
You sympathize. You went from trying to make peace and coexistence to sympathizing with Israel and not believing in coexistence, and to identifying with your Jewish side. How did that happen? Tell us a little bit more in short.
Yeah, it happened basically gradually because my heritage is also the non-Jewish heritage is actually Alawi, and a lot of places in Iraq and Iran we have to go as Shiites and not mainstream Alawis, even though basically you can't convert to Shiism from Alawi. You are considered a Shiite, but if they hear that you are Alawi, you are basically an infidel, and it's a whole stupid, crazy dynamic. I don't even know how to to explain this crazy theological things they have. I mean, that's within the same group, and there's this, and he is they're from a different group.
So were you affected by Islamism yourself as your family and your upbringing? Is that
No,
what you
no,
have
no.
this
I was
sensitivity?
brought up in a pretty secular environment. My neighborhood was Christian, Druze, and Muslim. So
Did you get along with the Muslims?
Wait,
like why do you
Druze
have all
in
these
Iraq?
feelings?
I have origins from Iraq. My father's half Iraqi.
Where
I'm not
did you
from
grow
Iraq.
up?
I was born in Iran, and I grew up in Lebanon. Okay, so
Okay, so what's your experience with Islam?
Lebanese.
Yeah, he's a Persian Lebanese.
yeah.
انت بتحكي عربي؟
لا 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 هذا من
ما
عبد
في
الحق
أستاذ عربي.
Can you speak American here?
هذا من جيش الحق هذا من جيش الحق
Yeah,
you get it?
Actually, he has to be. He has to be. He has to be.
No, he's probably he's not actually guys, he's not actually Shiite. I'm just saying like he aligns with that kind of
He's probably a descendant. He's probably a descendant.
What they're saying, Buttercup.
No, he's not.
They're saying that.
Okay, guys, pause. I wanna hear him explain.
Army.
You're saying you're part of Assad, right?
No, we said Lahad. جيش لحد.
No, it's the South Lebanese Army.
It's like a small army of Lebanese people that formed during the civil war to support Israel.
To
And
defend
they were
their
traitors,
rights.
essentially.
Okay.
They were traitors. They were dealt with such.
Oh, yeah,
They
I
were dealt
remember
with
this.
as
Yeah, I
traitors,
remember.
and then they got kicked
Now
out.
they became refugees, right?
Few of them were given refugees.
Okay, go on.
And now, by the way, Lebanese parliament, Lebanese government, I think just passed a law saying that they're allowed back in. They're going to be given.
Yeah, they give him amnesty, so go back.
Yeah.
Wait, I want to hear him to respond to allegation. You made an allegation. Go ahead, Dean.
Yeah, no, I'm not part of it. Like, I'm too young to be part of that and live in Lebanon. If I was part of that, I probably would have been lived in Israel my whole life, not Lebanon. So I wouldn't even have.
No, I know you're not actually part of it.
So how did you say I'm part of it?
No, I'm just saying like the same ideology. That's it. Like the same way you call Illumi ISIS, I'm calling you that. It's the same.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's actually a kind of pride.
Oh sure, yeah. If you think the most treacherous paramilitary force in our recent history is a badge of pride, then you go for it, Rob.
Yeah, it's
And I love it.
This is
I have a
interesting.
lot of friends from them. They were defending their lands. They didn't kill Lebanese. They were.
They didn't kill Lebanese?
Palestinians.
Are you
Interesting.
insane?
Oh, this is interesting.
They only tortured them.
Dean accused Illumi of sympathizing with ISIS, and Illumi took it as a badge of pride. You guys accused him of being part of this, what's this group called again? Al-Awli or...
No.
Okay.
It's the South.
I don't take it as a badge of pride. Like I already told you, my understanding of ISIS is that it is a foreign capitulation of the revolution that took place in Iraq to demonize it, to continue the war in Iraq. That's what it was, to extend it further. That's what I believe. ISIS is mainly, no one knows what ISIS is. Every country that had some black ops, every country that had black ops on the ground used the ruse of ISIS to operate. And as you see with Ahmed al-Sharir, he's affiliated with a specific branch that identified with ISIS. ISIS is an ideology that seeks to propagate the caliphate. Now, different groups took on the mantle and different groups clashed over who gets to hold the banner of this project. But at the end of the day, we got the conclusion of that. Ahmed al-Sharir is the de facto authority when it comes down to anyone who wants to affiliate with that project.
The snuff porn and the beheadings is a little problematic, though, right? For ISIS.
Again, all of that Baghdadi stuff, that's CIA. I don't believe that was ever all those. That was MI6, so MI5. please, MI6,
You're claiming Giuliani was his group specifically after he broke apart from ISIS that kidnapped the patriarch in Aleppo.
Yeah, but
They've done some pretty fucking horrendous shit. Like you can't
no,
go
everything is under the Sharia, everything he has just.
and listen, don't get me wrong. I would still I'm stuck for a lot. As an ex-Muslim, I'm telling you this. I would still rather fight with ISIS than that. ISIS is still better than Lahad.
Of course,
I agree with you on that, right? But that does not mean ISIS is going to fight any.
But ISIS is not. You cannot.
ISIS and Jabhat al-Nusra specifically. If you want Jabhat al-Nusra specifically,
you cannot compare ISIS to Lahad anyways. As structure, as an organization, they're not comparable. Like Lahad is an army.
I'm just saying, like if you're going to fight for one of them,
Lahad is an army.
I'm just saying, if you're going to fight for one of them, I would still fight for ISIS.
That have officers, that have ranks,
however,
general.
It doesn't matter. The point is that,
ISIS
however,
is
you
just
cannot deny. You cannot
guns.
deny. Not only you want to say ISIS or with the catch-all term, whatever. Okay, look at Jabhat al-Nusra specifically, right? And look at what they did in Syria and in Iraq, by the way, before they formed it.
Jabhat al-Nusra, there are two.
Look at just what they did in Syria. No, there was a lot.
There's that group that is funded by Saudi Arabia, and then there was the group that is Jabhat al-Nusra, which broke away. Yeah, Jabhat al-Nusra broke away from ISIS.
Sure, but even then, even after they
what is this proof?
Even after they broke away, they
that
still
ISIS
committed
is not
acts of terrorism.
One head organization. You can see that there are many groups
even
that split from affiliation with ISIS.
Fine.
ISIS.
Even if that's the case, you're still avoiding that there are specific organizations like Jabhat al-Nusra that have very well documented committed acts of terrorism and specifically sectarian acts of terrorism.
Again, everything has context. We're talking about the Syrian Revolution, which was a straight up disaster.
Dude, they went and just kidnapped the fucking patriarch.
I don't know the justifications for that. I mean, I don't know. I remember hearing about that, but it wasn't. Hey man, they're right.
Do you both agree that the whole idea of ISIS?
What am I going to offer you protection, and I'm going to protect your territories, and what? And no return?
And the elements of ISIS were organized, financed, and propped up by foreign entities. Now, hence we see the result of ISIS operations in the region. A Shura came riding on a tank, on a Western tank, a Turkish tank, and so on. They tell us who those ISIS people. We don't know who those fucking ISIS people were. When we see, what was that U.S. senator taking pictures with the early people of ISIS? What was his name?
John McCain.
Right?
John McCain.
Yeah, John McCain.
Yeah, John McCain.
Yeah.
The presidential candidate. He ran against
he
Obama.
He was being photographed with those elements of ISIS in Syria, in northern Syria. And you're telling me those ISIS are Islamist people? They're Islamists?
Yeah, bro, I am not going to sit here and condemn ISIS in accordance to the Western narrative. That is never going to happen. And so if people want to call me ISIS all day, you can. I don't agree with the disorganization. I don't believe in people piling up into an ambiguous organization over a banner, over some nostalgia. So I believe a lot of those people got goofed. And if I actually truly believed, I would have been one of the people that went there. I did not believe in an organization that we don't know who the head of it is.
Foreigners. Since you were asking questions. Lecturing us about art. If you're unwilling to understand the concept of this is a pretty basic concept about Canada. It's something you learn pretty quickly about Canada when you learn about our system. I find it I don't know why you want to push back on it. We're not really ruled by
rights and freedoms for 150 years. Clearly, that was either a lie or you didn't know. You only had rights and freedom.
As soon as I muted it up, I was like, oh no, the Constitution is much younger than that. Prior to that, when we had another document, I could look it up, but I'm just more familiar with the Charter of Rights and Freedom.
Girl, did you know it is the oldest country in the world?
You think America is the oldest country in the world?
Yes. Yes, we have had the longest standing government that has not changed over. I mean, look at your shitty ass country's only existed for 44 years. But your current system, your current setup, our setup, we're 250 years old, bro. When you look at these other countries across the world, I mean, think about this. Russia, what is known of Russia only came about in the 1990s. The oldest country standing in America, or in the world. We were the oldest. Longest running, and all these other countries followed suit after we.
That's record of governance of one regime, I think, that you say. Not the record of standing of the country. I mean,
that was and like I don't even like it's not even a pushback. It's just okay. You just said like verbatim. You said I want to get it right. That the USA is the oldest country in the world. You said the oldest country, and then after I called you out on it, then you changed your terminology and you said the oldest continuously operating national constitution, which are two different things. Now, and that's fine. I get it. Like, I actually get what you did there. I'm so close to done. I know Coco's going to freak out. But what you did there, I get it. I get what you did. It's similar. Like, it's like you can make that mistake. And I get it. I'm not mad at you. But I feel like if I were to have done that, I'd hear about it from you for the next 20 minutes about how I don't know what I'm talking about because I said the oldest country in the world. That's what you do. You do that all the time.
I'm not that petty, bro. You're just being petty now. Literally, everyone knew what I'm saying. Yes, we're very familiar.
You're doing it to me about the constitutional monarchy.
We're very familiar that humans have existed for thousands of years in the Middle East, and not as many humans haven't existed in the West. We're familiar with history. However, I'm explaining to you, in the current standing, in the world we live in right now, America is the longest tenured country in the world. Find one older.
The longest
changed their government and changed the structure of their society, largely based on how successful America is.
Such a weird claim. Like, okay.
I'm pronouncing it correctly. I think the reason why you think it's a weird claim is because you actually change your constitution every 17 years. Every 17. What Joe is trying to explain to you, we in the United States of America, our republic, has been intact under the same document for 250 years. That's the longest standing constitution in the history. That's what he's telling you. So when you have people with a constitution, and I don't even know, Ken, do you guys have a Bill of Rights?